Hello.
Hey.
Hey. Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching. This is episode 1 zillion. Congratulations. You've arrived at the episode. And I'm really pleased for my guests, Justin and Mary Morantz, and we'll get to them in just a second. You see them already. But for those of you who are new to the show, let me explain a little bit of how this works. Basically, it's a conversation that we've been in for almost 3 years now. Between me and my guests and hopefully you guys. And you guys get a chance to listen in. A little while back, we switched the format a little bit because we used to be live only, and it created a lot of complications where I would be dealing with technological glitches while I'm typing in the chat room and twittering and trying to engage thoughtfully with my guests. And eventually that began to wear, and my guests were like, are you even talking to me? Because it seems like you're over there. So I've decided to commit to one thing at a time, which is talk to my guests. And so this is pre-recorded. But the great news is both myself and if we can pull it off, my guests are able to jump into the chat room when it's played live. And we're there with you there. So you get to kind of watch with us as we engage the conversation. And any questions that come up, we can answer those live and engage it that way. And I think it's actually the best of both worlds. And of course, if you're watching this live, that's great. That means you got a ticket. And if you're not, you're watching it on replay, that's great. That just means you got to watch it free later. And in both cases, we're super grateful to Adorama for making this possible and underwriting the whole thing. So the way to engage is to engage the chat room or on Twitter, and we'll go from there. But without further ado, I want to introduce you to Justin and Mary Morantz, and welcome, guys. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We're excited.
I'm excited too, and it's funny. We go back a little bit. We've been friends for a while, and it started with, I think, a thirst relief auction. I think it was thirst relief. I don't totally remember. It was a while back. But back in those days, it was really just a. Gosh, you seem kind of all excited and enthusiastic, and now you're still excited and enthusiastic. You're just super established, and it's pretty exciting to see. So tell us a little bit about your journey as wedding photographers over the last half decade.
Wow, half decade. That sounds so like...
Makes me old.
I know, long and old.
Whatever. Try having gray in your goatee and see if it does.
Oh, no, there's color. It's all good. Well, so... I feel like we always kind of tell the part of like Justin leading up because he actually went to school for photography. But I mean, basically he picked up photography in high school. There was a really good program, and then he went to RIT for the advertising photography program, and pretty much thought that's what he was going to do.
And for some folks who aren't at home, don't know about how significant that is. RIT is a pretty amazing school. Explain a little bit, give some context for RIT.
So, I mean, when I was graduating high school, I pretty much knew that I wanted to go into photography, and I looked at a couple different schools, and when I toured RIT, it was just like, kind of like eye-opening, like this is the place where I want to be. It has amazing facilities, amazing faculty, really great programs, and it was founded with some help from the Eastman Kodak Company in Rochester, New York. So that's, RIT is, or not, the university wasn't founded there, but the photography program was. And so it's been one of the longest, if not the longest, running photography program. And it was really a great place to kind of get a kickstart into photography. I mean, I owe a lot of credit to the professors that I worked with, and they're some of my biggest mentors still.
Yeah, my only exposure to RIT is when I do these Adobe events pretty regularly every fall, especially in New York, and a lot of the RIT faculty end up coming to these things. And Julieanne Kost is a dear friend, and she talks a lot about, like, of all the different schools, it sounds like RIT is one of those kind of really special places that they, I make fun of art schools in my book, or at least the dynamic that can happen in the culture of getting formally trained, because it can breed kind of a prima donna feel. But it seems like RIT is a bit of an exception to the rule, where they're pretty thoughtful about cultivating a different kind of result in their students. Is that accurate?
I hope so.
He's a prima donna about a lot of other things, probably. But not photography.
I mean, it was, like I said, it was an amazing place to get started. I don't think being a wedding photographer or any kind of photographer, you have to go to a photography school. But if you're young and you're looking for that added life experience and a good place to learn all aspects of photography, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I wish I had that as a background. Honestly, I think it would have been hugely resourceful. But at the same time, I'm grateful to learn in different ways. But okay, so that was your start, and then you got lucky enough to meet Mary, and
that's really, I mean, that was the luckiest point.
So I come from a very different background, which is that I was in law school when we met. And I did finish law school, but pretty much as soon as we met, which was after the summer after my first year, I started helping out with all the business side. Justin just wanted to shoot, and he loved photography, and he loved people, and he just loved getting to do it, to do what he wanted to do most. But I think it was like on our third date, I was like, break out the pricing sheet, like break out the contract. Let's take a look at this. I actually come from...
Sounds like a really fun date.
It was super awesome. He wanted to like marry me right away. It was great. But I come from, I think we counted once like 8 generations back of entrepreneurs. The last 7 being logging in West Virginia.
Wow.
But that's just, it's a long line of that. And I've been around small business my whole life. So I was like, let's look at the contracts, let's look at the pricing. And because Justin had booked a lot of his weddings in Rochester and was now living in Connecticut, he was having to drive back for everyone. There were a lot of costs. And so we realized he was losing money. And so we just set about to fixing that, I would say. And for 2 years, it was kind of that dynamic. He was the artist, and I kind of tagged in on the business side while I finished law school. And then in 2006, which might have been the first time that we met you.
I think it was.
We went to our first partner con. When we were at that partner con, the crazy part is, a lot of people don't know this, I only went to about 2 classes because I was up in our room finishing my final papers for law school.
Wow.
And I had 2 law firm offers, a London one and a New York one.
How sexy. That sounds fun.
Sounds fun. It wasn't so much. And so that right after that partner con, we just decided to kind of leap into things. Yeah. So that basically gets us to the starting point. That was a long answer to get to the starting point.
Yeah, so we haven't answered the question
at all. But I guess the past 5 years have been a lot of figuring it out, probably going the long way around.
Definitely.
Making a lot of mistakes.
Definitely. But
learning from them. And I think probably just in the last like 2, maybe 2.5 years, I feel like we've really kind of gotten into a groove of things where not only are we doing the things that maybe we think we're supposed to do, but we're doing the things that actually have the most bang for their buck and the most impact.
That's great. Well, it's funny, like the purpose of this conversation for the folks that are listening in, I just love it just on a personal level. It's just great to reconnect with you guys. And by the way, you were invited by request. It's not uncommon for me to get emails from folks saying, oh, can you bring so-and-so on, so-and-so? And I actually I said out loud, like, oh yeah, I know Mary and Justin, it'd be fun to invite them. And as soon as I said it, like, not only did the person get excited that you guys were possibly coming on, but a whole litany of people after them were like, oh my gosh, we really want them to come on. They really wanted Mary and Justin, sorry. But, they'll take you too. And the net result, though, was, clearly you guys have made a mark in the industry. And it's really unique because you guys are committed practitioners of photography. You do educate, but you do a lot more than that. And I like what you're saying about trying to do the right things to get the right return. But the purpose of this call for the folks who are listening at home is really for them to get 1 or 2, maybe 3 little nuggets so that it could actually begin to employ right now. It's not meant to solve the world's problems, but it is meant to kind of push them, give them a little bit of oomph, whether it be encouragement, inspiration, something. But a moment ago, you mentioned that there were, like every entrepreneur I know on the planet, there's twists and turns that are made, and you made some choices early on. What were some like absolute blunders that you made at the early days? At least one that we could all kind of enjoy together.
Oh my goodness, we have plenty. So I think the one that probably goes over with the most popularity is that we did the bridal shows, but we not only did the bridal shows, we did the cheesiest version of doing bridal shows you can possibly imagine. We had like a folding table and a plastic tablecloth, and we went to Michael's and got one of those gigantic champagne glasses.
No joke, it was like this big.
3 feet tall. Nice. And we filled it with Hershey's Hugs and Kisses.
Nice.
And we did an I Do iPod as our giveaway.
Oh, that's right.
And one of them was on Valentine's Day, so I think we like tied little like red bows on everything.
That sounds perfect. Why is that a gaff? I mean, my gosh.
It was bad. It was, and
did you get a return on it? Did anyone do anything?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is like you do book some clients from these bridal shows. The problem is that whether you book or not is not the win. It's, are they actually the kind of couples that you want?
That's right.
And are they actually the kind of couples that are going to move you forward? And they, for the most part, were not.
Yeah.
They were like, here's a photographer, here's a photographer, here's a photographer. Which one is the cheapest?
Yeah.
And it was just an exchange of service for money. And when the service was over, that was it. Mm-hmm. And we were thinking of all the people we booked from bridal shows, we aren't in contact with any of them. Whereas all of our word of mouth couples, even from 4.5 years ago, we still hang out with them on a fairly regular basis, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, what a great distinction. I mean, I think of the crass way that I describe, and I don't know if a photographer hasn't done this, but photographers who take jobs because it's money, it's like an opportunity, but it is this kind of like kind of prostitution photography where it's like, well, whatever it is, if you'll pay me, I'll click the button, and but it does kind of internally it's a breakdown in integrity with myself, not in a moral sense, like I've done something wrong, but more, well, I guess it is wrong, but not in, like, no one's going to get in trouble for it. It's just more, I'm missing something about me that gets at the table when I do those kinds of deals. Yeah. And yet, there's also this tension of, gosh, holding out for the right clients, the right conversations, the connections that will last longer. What did you guys do in those early days to begin to trade in those leads that were just they're gonna hire you, but you knew they weren't good fits, and hold on for, gosh, if we just wait for the right clients, they're gonna come in. What did you do to kind of keep that fortitude?
I don't think it's so much what we did. I think it's what life did to us, which is we only had to have one of those clients where you take the money, like you said, you shouldn't, but you take it, and before you know it, the money's gone, and then you have this client for the next 2 years. Right? While they're planning their wedding, while the wedding's happening, the album afterwards, and you feel like your soul is just being sucked out.
Yeah.
And I really think if you live through one of those and come out the other side, it only takes one, and you just make that decision. I just can't do that anymore. I turned down law firm offers. Justin turned down working in the cutthroat advertising field because we wanted to take this risk. We wanted to build this business. We wanted to make that leap of faith. And if you're going to do all that work, you should at least be happy. And just one of those clients really weighing down on us and making us feel bad about our work, what we were doing, nothing we could do to make her happy. We just knew, I'd rather fail than have a calendar full of clients like that. Ideally, we won't fail. Ideally, we'll be able to have both. But, yeah. Do you want to add to that? No, it was good. It was really good.
What she said. Exactly. Well, okay, so let's talk for a second about the world that we're in, because the industry that you got in 5 years ago is a different world than the industry that we're all in today. As I remember it, 5 years ago, there was a lot more low-hanging fruit when it came to weddings. It was just kind of a little bit easier to get a gig.
Sure.
And not just any gig, but you get a higher price gig. The economy wasn't, the real estate didn't tank. All the dads who were subsidizing daughters' weddings with, equity in homes that was actually available, or whatever. Their 401k wasn't a 201k yet. All those kinds of realities. Yeah. And now it's hyper competitive. There's a zillion more photographers in the game. But you guys have developed a reputation around the industry as very positive, very constructive, trying to help people out. The walk through the wedding workshop that you guys do, again, that's probably, at least in my experience doing workshops and trainings and that sort of thing, it's one thing to kind of stand up and inspire a bunch of people, but when people get some practical vision of how to do something, it has this radical shift. They're like, oh my gosh, I have new eyes. I could try and mimic that or get inspired and do something new out of it. But you guys have consistently done that, where you're providing value even though you're not selling a bunch of stuff to photographers. So first off, what's that about? And second,
What's wrong with you?
have you noticed? Talk a little bit about the state of the industry and where are we at, given your kind of experience and seeing this thing evolve.
Whew, those are a lot of questions. Okay.
Yeah, that's my job. I just ask loaded questions and I just sit back and watch you squirm. It's really great.
Nice. I like it. So I think being the lawyer, being the analytical brain, I'm going to break it down in a few parts. The first one I think is dealing with where the economy is now, with maybe it being a little more competitive, with there being more photographers, and with not as much fundage being available. And what we
fundage.
kind of
that is can I get the trademark on that? That's a pretty great term. Right here on Fast Track Coaching, fundage.
It's your next book right there. There
yeah,
you go.
Right.
Fundage.
That'll sell. Fundage.
So I feel like what we decided pretty early on, when we knew things might be changing in the economy, when we knew that there might be more people coming in, is we kind of said to ourselves, if we're losing business because of new photographers, then we're doing something wrong. And let's make sure that if a couple is looking at us, we're making it clear to them that they're not looking. I don't want to give a diss here, but basically, like, if somebody's looking at us and somebody's looking at somebody brand new, we don't want there to be any kind of comparison. Basically, we don't want to think of ourselves as in competition with anybody, even if it's not somebody who's brand new, even if it's the photographer who's maybe been in it a year longer than us, who's right down the road and is a good friend of ours and has a very similar style. Who I think you know Steve DePino, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Steve DePino, awesome photographer, lives 15 minutes from us. We have similar styles, not exactly the same, but similar, and he's a phenomenal photographer. People either, when they're coming in and they see the two of us, they either definitely want him and not us, or they definitely want us and not him. We don't compete. And I think as soon as we made that decision that we just weren't going to compete with anybody else, we weren't going to worry about if anybody else was including the disc or not, or what their album prices were or what they were offering. As soon as we made that choice, it just kind of narrowed that focus of, cool, so that eliminates all of this noise and this like nervous anxiety of running left and seeing what that person's doing, running right and seeing what that person's doing. And it meant we could use all of this energy we were now like pulling in and focus it on moving forward. So what's our value? What's our message? What makes us unique? What's going to make somebody feel like nobody else in the world could capture who they are like we will? And that's when you start seeing the still motion movie come out, and the video come out, and the more personal blog posts and the stuff we love, things like that connect people to us. I'm going to let you tag in for putting it all out there.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like, getting to share with other photographers and getting to teach, I mean, it's something that I feel pretty passionate about. I had really amazing mentors and teachers, and I just love being able to help people like that. We've been to workshops, we've been to seminars, and one of the most important things for Mary and I was just to be totally honest with everyone that comes in our door. Yep. And so, we've pushed ourselves pretty hard to make sure not only are we being as honest as we can be at that moment, saying this is our experience with it, this is how we feel like it should be. It might not be exactly right, but this is the best answer we can give you at the moment. And then combining that with, we want to give them as much value as possible. Yeah. So, I mean, if you've, some of your listeners may have come to walk through a wedding. We're there we start at 9 a.m. and we push all the way through like somewhere around 10:30, 11 p.m.
12,
it's a full, a full long day. And it's just, we want everyone to walk out of there with as much information as possible. We're not going to hold anything back, just because, I think that's how we grow as an industry, is helping each other that way.
I think it's what you said, Dane, is like that moment where it's like you're talking about these ideas, you're talking about concepts, and then you like allow them to hold the camera and push the button at those settings and like see it happen, and they did it, and that light bulb moment. And I think Justin and I are actually like 12-step worthy addicted to that light bulb moment. Oh, yeah. Like, holy crap, when you can see someone come in there and feel like they suck and they're struggling and they're never going to get it, whether it's lighting or just talking to a couple, posing them, into posing them the way you want, and then they do it and they feel like in that moment like all the levers click into place and the stars align and they actually did it themselves. Like, we basically don't leave walkthrough until we feel like everybody's had at least one of those moments.
Wow.
Also, just to add to that, final thing I would say is that it seems like a backward way of thinking about it, or it seems like it shouldn't be true, but we find the more that we put out there, the more that we share with people, the more that we invest in being people builders, the more those people become, just like our clients, they become those raving fans for us. And they go out and they spread the word. And it always comes back. You know, we don't do it for that purpose, but it's a really, really great side effect, is that the more generous we are, the more that we actually care, the more that our heart is in it, the more people believe in it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier this notion of, you know, people, like you mentioned, Steve, maybe you guys have similar styles, at least to an unsophisticated eye. You live in close geographical regions. It reminds me a little of like Jeff and Julie Woods and Vicky and Jed Toffer. Like they're right down the road from each other. Yeah. Very similar demographic of people they're going to draw from. Yet when people come in, they seem to intuitively know the difference between you and him or whoever else you're competing with, or not competing with. What is that difference? Like how is it? What is the feel that they get where they can go, oh, I want this and not the other?
Yeah. I think both us and Steve have just, we've worked really hard at putting both ourselves out there. So we both have videos of some variety. He has one when you first log onto his website where he welcomes you to the website. Mm-hmm. We have our promo video. We have videos in the header. He does like posts about, like, I think every year on his birthday, for example, like stuff he's liking right at that moment. But mostly it's just kind of this like, he's done a very good job of being like the single guy wedding photographer, like the Bradley Cooper of the wedding photography industry. And we've done a really good job of being two people in love who like have been there and we get it. And I think it's just kind of like a different gut level feeling. He's maybe a little bit of like slightly edgier, or maybe a little bit more of like a bigger personality, and we tend to be more of like that like warm, comfortable blanket. That up.
No, that makes sense to me. So it's not just about the result out of your cameras, because again, even if there is some kind of reasonable comparison, beyond that, it's a quality of feel around the connection. And if certain people want a connection with the unit that is, you know, you two, around a certain kind of set of values, that's going to be different than it'd be like, you know, someone wanting to hire me versus someone wanting to hire Becker. Like it's a different reality, and you're like, he's a big personality, and it's not like any of us can't hold our own in the conversation, but it's very qualitatively different. And so I think I'm hearing what you're saying, but it sounds like it has most to do with the connection and less to do with your work. Unless I'm missing something in that. I
do think that he has, even in the work, there's just slightly, you see that come out to play. So it's there's just slightly more fashion influence from his work. It's a lot more wide angle. We tend to be a lot tighter crop, a lot more like a very like intimate in there sort of moment, whereas he sort of tends to be like bigger picture.
Yep. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's funny. So if I'm at home and I'm listening to this, I'd be curious around, because I'm actually at home listening to this. I'd be curious around, gosh, that idea of finding that style, like because I like the idea of the thread of, you know, crop tight, intimate, connected. Well, that's you guys. You guys are as a life are crop tight, intimate, and connected, and that makes sense that there'd be a resonance between your work and who you are, and how that would translate, whether subconsciously or consciously, for the client. If I'm at home listening to this and I'm like, okay, that's cool for them, how do I do that for me?
Yeah.
What advice do you give to photographers who are in search of a resonance with their work to be in alignment with who they are and what they could project and really serve with out of their personality?
Yes. So I think it's 2 levels. Here's what I would recommend. Number 1, I would go, I would invest in some photography books. One that I definitely recommend is the Vanity Fair, the Portraits book. It's a sort of, is anthology the word? And it's like 100 years of photography. And so you see stuff from the beginning of photography up until modern day, and just flip through that as quickly as you can without asking yourself any questions. Maybe you get those like little sticky tabs, and if an image speaks to you, tab it. tab it, keep going, tab it, tab it, tab it, and just do it. And then maybe you walk away for a little while and then come back and look at that body of images. Or maybe you go on Pinterest, search for, this photographer leads to you to that photographer. Who are some that we've really liked?
As far as portraits?
On Pinterest in particular.
Almost all the Irving Penn portraits,
Yep.
and Amy portraits, and Avedon portraits.
Seliger.
Mark Seliger from Modern Day.
Who was that one that we just found? Louise Dahl Frank or something like that. And just pull. Make these folders, make these tabs, and then go back and look at them and say, what does this body of images have in common? For us, it was two things. One is directional dimensional light, and the other was simplicity of background. We were really drawn to 1930s, 1940s portraits of people like Vivian Leigh, Clark Gable, Grace Kelly, a little later, obviously. But they all, when we had that whole body of work, we discovered directional dimensional light, simplicity of background. And then on the second side, the flip side of it, the second part of that is figuring out what it is that you want to stand for as a photographer. Because on the wedding day, stuff is happening so quickly that you're just often just like trying to survive, or you have so much in your head of the other person's blog that you just skim through that you can't get anything else in there. And I think having a why going into the day and then a filter that you can boil that down into to run each decision through will keep pulling you back to the photographer you want to be. For us, our why is something to the effect of, we have a whole paragraph of it, but it's something to the effect of, we recognize that what we do is about documenting a history, and that it's not just to capture the day for the people that are there, but the people who A, couldn't be there in person that day, or B, aren't even born yet. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and that our images are going to be passed down. So we took that why and we boiled it down into AEIOU. I'll let you take that part.
So our vowels, as Vanna White would turn for you, it would be authentic, enduring and emotional, intimate, organic, and universal. And universal just in the sense that like anybody could look at the image and have a feeling for who the couple was or what that time period was.
Yeah.
Even if not, there on the wedding day.
Yeah. So as we're making those decisions, do I set them up? Do I not set them up? Do I say something? Do I not say something? Do I change the light? Do I not change it? We're asking ourselves, is it authentic? Is it organic? Does this create more intimacy in the moment? Or does it ruin the moment by interjecting? And just having both of those sides. What kind of photography speaks to us? It's probably the kind of style that we're going to feel most authentic in, and then actually putting it into play on the wedding day, either through action or sometimes inaction. Keeps pulling us closer to actually resulting in that style.
That's great. So that's on the other side of the lens when you're actually trying to get the result. And you're also trying to match that with your own affect with the clients. And I know one of the things that you guys care a lot about, we have this in common. We both are big fans of Seth Godin and the like. And the idea of creating a Purple Cow experience, or whoever wrote that Love Mark book, the advertising guy, what was his name?
Kevin Roberts.
Kevin Roberts. This idea of kind of creating disproportionate enthusiasm in terms of response from your clients. It seems like, again, you've done a couple things really well. One is you're very consistent in your style and what you want to get as a result with your work. You're also very consistent with the experience you want your clients to have, this kind of wow experience. And you're also keen on connecting the dots so that when people experience the images or they experience you, there's an alignment where people have this kind of this exponentially disproportionate, like, who are these people and why are they my best friends? I just hired them as my photographers. So talk a little bit about that last part of connecting this. And for those of you guys who are unfamiliar at home listening, the Cliff Notes version of Purple Cow is if you're going to sell milk in a commoditized market in your cow, try to be a purple cow, because at least people will see you, because cows are invisible when everyone's a cow. And that's my best take on kind of the shortened version of Purple Cow. But the same idea with love marks of just like, it's not enough to do good work. It has to be an extraordinary experience where people kind of go, wow. So what are some of the things, if that's a good enough Cliff Notes version of what those things mean, what is it, are the things that you do, the values that you hold to make those love marks happen with your clients?
Yeah. I think a lot of different things go into being a love mark. just to kind of like add on to that, like some, for people who are viewing at home who are not like, I don't really know what you mean by love mark, or I don't really know like if I ever feel that way. I think one that photographers a lot of us have in common is this love mark with Apple. Having a love mark with a company is something like, when I have to buy X, yes, exactly. Good. Keep them coming.
I have like plenty more.
But, if you have a love mark with Apple, if you have to buy a new desktop, there's absolutely no question that you're going to open up the Dell website, right? You're not gonna go in and hang out.
I'm gonna open up the Dell website. Is that what you said?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Where's my Dell?
Right. You're not gonna like, if you have to buy a new phone, you're not gonna go check out what Droid is doing or whatever.
Right.
Like if you have that love mark with Apple, there's no question apple.com is where you're going.
Right.
Or the Apple store, ideally. For me, I have a huge love mark with Starbucks, and it's kind of become a parody because we've talked about it so much, but it is actually the honest to goodness truth that we drive by a couple of Dunkin' Donuts every morning and go about 15 minutes in either direction to get Starbucks. And it becomes what Kevin Roberts talks about in Love Marks, this loyalty beyond reason. Where it's like there's loyalty, like, yeah, I like this company. And then there's like, this actually doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the most rational sense to drive by Dunkin' Donuts and pay probably less for coffee and keep going on to Starbucks. So I think a few different things go into having that kind of relationship with your clients. One of them is allowing them in. It's allowing them to be part of something. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. It can be vulnerable. It can be a little bit of an underdog. And it's something where you allow them in, and it's something bigger that they can believe in. What your work stands for.
So what do people believe in with you guys?
I think that they believe in our commitments. I keep talking robots.
It's okay.
Do you want to tag
It's
in?
just because my questions are so engaging. I get it. It's no problem. I'm just feeling affirmed over here.
I think for us, let me take a deep breath. I think for us, what people become most compelled to is how we see love and the world because of how we love together. Yeah. In the simplest, most straightforward sentence.
I totally agree. Honestly, guys, if you were stuck on this question, I was going to answer it for you, because that's exactly right. I mean, I think people want to insert themselves in your story, and there's an association of having you guys nearby in the context of what you do, and you are candid and honest with reality. It's not like it's all like Pleasantville. You know, you got to work it out, and it's actually that's what has a resonance, and you still love each other anyways. Yeah. And you love the work, and you love the photographer. Like, you guys are just, you're that overused love cat phrase. You are those people, and I think that is compelling. I think, but it's interesting because if I'm at home and I'm listening to this and I'm more of a cynic, or you know that's not going to be my brand, or you know, we're speaking in broad strokes about the Steves and the Beckers of the world, but you know, if you're kind of the more the Playboy kind of role or kind of personality, then that's going to be, it's a different kind of messaging that some people could have resonance with if it's indeed true with kind of who you are and what you're about. Yep. I think of Sal Cincotta as another example of, like, man, he and I are very different personalities, but clearly his model works in the context of how he connects with certain people and has no connection with others. Is there some alignment with what I'm saying to what you guys have experienced?
Yes, I think that's it. I think it one of the most relieving things that we've realized is that it doesn't have to be just this personality or just this model. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't have to be like super, super loud or super, super hyper or super, super like, because we're neither of those things. We are constantly accused of being too soft-spoken and having to repeat ourselves or what have you. And
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Exactly. and we're those people who, you know, we're home on a Friday night and we're like popping popcorn and watching Frasier or Hot in Cleveland, Betty White, or whatever, you know, movies on Netflix. And just that realization that as long as whatever it is, whether it is this bigger personality, the single guy, or the, you know, like really like peppy personality or what have you, or something quieter, like as long as it is actually authentically you, I think there will be people who connect with that.
Super. All right. I'm taking notes. So here's the deal. If this has been valuable for you guys at home, I want you to do something for me. Would you be kind enough to thank Justin and Mary for me? And your guys' Twitter is at what?
At Justin Morantz and at Mary Morantz.
Okay, so it's going to take... you're going to have to do some double duty. You don't just get to do one easy follow. You got to do two. And by the way, hypothetically, if you don't follow me, I won't be hurt or offended if you follow at Dane Sanders. But the follow doesn't matter as much, honestly, as the reaching out and connecting. And I would say this for kind of the culture around Fast Track, and certainly the culture with these guys, is the interest isn't just to have a followership; it's to have connections. And if you don't believe me, I double dog dare you to follow these two and see if you don't see it consistently, and see if you aren't able to connect the dots between how what these guys have been doing could inspire a unique iteration of what that could look like in your own brand and what you're up to. So that's just me talking to those guys about you two. But you guys are the real deal. I mean, honestly, it's just been such a privilege to be your friends, and for you guys to have reached out in my direction early on. I'm super honored by it. I mean, you guys, as you continue to kind of really flourish, both in your local market and just being known, speaking in everywhere, and doing all the things you're doing, it really does add value to our industry. And I, for one, am just super grateful for all that you guys are and mean. So thank you.
Thank you. And actually, I don't know if you even remember this, but I guess it would be 2 years ago now at the PartnerCon in New Orleans that we were both Nolans that we were both at. I don't even know if you remember, but you were coming right out of your talk and you had to, I think, get to the flight. So you were like literally like a rolly bag in hand going down the stairs. And I just like came up to you because what you were talking about in that session, like I was like crying in the back of the room like a crazy person. And you gave me, I think I had a copy of the book or something like that, and you signed it and you wrote, "I believe in the Morantzes." And it was like
I remember writing
seconds, and then you had to go get your flight. But like I think about that all the time, and I really, really like that's all it takes to like really impact somebody, and we really appreciate it.
Well, I do, and you guys are easy to believe in. So thank you for. It's funny. I totally remember that moment, and I remember going into your room. I remember feeling this sense of like totally disproportionate paternal pride of like, I talked to them early on, and look at them, they're leading them. It must be because of me. Clearly it's not. But it was really just. I just think our industry is better with guys like you around, and people like you guys around, and keep doing what you're doing. And honestly, the real impact that I've seen in what you guys have been up to is the net effect. Like, there's a lot of folks who've been you guys have had influence with, who are now also going out and making marks, and that's the legacy, and it's super thrilling to see it happen. So thank you for all you guys are doing. Thanks for being on the show. I'd love to have you on again. If people want to connect to the Walk Through the Wedding workshops, where do they go? Do they just go to your blog?
Yeah, I think probably go into the blog and they can search for it at the top is probably the easiest way, or they can shoot me an email. That's
okay. Okay, and they'll hear about stuff on Twitter and so forth, I'm assuming.
Oh, yes.
Cool. Well, if this has been valuable for you guys, please do shout out to those guys. Also, thanks again to Adorama for making this happen. Really grateful for all their support. And hopefully you guys will join us next time. And I can't wait to see you guys. We'll see you guys in Vegas, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'll see you there. Looking forward to it. Take care, you guys.
Thanks, Dan. Bye.
Bye.